our esteemed Finance Director, Paul Adams, who's going to give a presentation, update, present, past, present, future on the ARPA funds. COVID, thank you, Aaron, there. Because you remember when COVID was well, COVID, I guess, still is a thing, but when we were shut down and all that, the federal government gave municipalities money and blah, blah. I think we got $4.1 million, and we've been parsing it out, I guess, and making decisions as a town board. And I think we're to the next milestone in that process, and Paul will explain it.
Yes, time to talk ARPA again. So, just give you a little recap of some of the history over the past couple of years. So the town received the initial funds in July of 2021, which was about half, about $2 million, and the other half was received about 1 year later. So, in total, there were 4,050,868 received. The U.S. Department of Treasury developed certain rules for spending the funds. They came out with something called the final rule in April of 2022, and we've used those as the guidelines for the funds that we have spent thus far. So the funds, here are some of the ways the funds can be spent. They can be used for public health emergencies. They can be used to combat the economic impact of COVID-19, which could be related to some businesses or nonprofit agencies within the town. It can be used to fund the loss of revenue. Since there were shutdowns during COVID, obviously, which ground a lot of things to a halt and basically cost the town quite a bit of revenue. The funds can also be spent for general government services, which kind of offers a wide range of alternatives. They can be used for premium pay for essential workers, such as police or healthcare workers. And they can also be used for water, sewer, or broadband infrastructure. So, thus far, we did utilize $350,000 for what we call economic impact. These were grants provided to 14 nonprofit organizations throughout the town of Webster. That was paid to them in July 2022. We also utilized $2.5 million for the first portion of the town's energy performance contract with Navitas, which was related to the planning and development stage of the wastewater treatment phase 2 project. There was $33,900 spent in regard to environmental testing related to 600 Ridge Road, the West Webster hamlet. I think this was actually environmental remediation work that was done through Monroe County Department of Environmental Services. So, in addition to what we spent thus far, the final rule says you also have to obligate funds by the end of 2024. So, thus far, in addition to the money spent, we have obligated $302,000 for premium pay to our police officers, and this is in conjunction with the recently settled police union contract. As of last week, we actually paid the first portion of this, which was $132,000. It was paid in the payroll dated April 19th to 33 officers. So the remaining use of funds, there's $864,760 remaining, which is not obligated and not spent. So the final rule, adds significant flexibility to the use of these funds. So there are many different ways in which they can be utilized. We elected what was called the standard allowance. As I mentioned earlier, there was a lost revenue option. The town had the choice to actually try to calculate how much revenue was lost, or you could just, or the other option was just to adopt standard allowance, which allows you to take up to $10 million and spend it on government services. The proposed use of remaining funds. As I said, they must be obligated by the end of this year, 2024. So by obligated, I mean they must be under contract. And those obligated funds must be spent by December 31st of 2026. So possible use of the remaining funds. Possibilities we've listed here are either already obligated or a high probability of being obligated at the end of the year. We have the dog kennel project coming up. We did receive a grant for that, but there is a match which the town will have to contribute to. The highway building project, which is well underway, that is already obligated, so that's a good option. The Sandbar Park Phase 2 and 3 projects, which I think have a pretty good chance of being under contract by the end of 2024. The Sandbar Park building, the same, also a good chance of being under contract. And the West Webster Hamlet, there's a grant we've applied for there, which would require a significant match and be another possible use. So just in summary, so far we have received $4,050,860. Of that amount, there's $2,883,900, which is spent, it's already expended. We've obligated $302,000, of which $132,000 was actually spent last week. And then we have future obligations of about $865,000. So the total spent through March 31st is just short of $2.9 million. The remaining funds to be spent, about $1,166,000. I used March 31st because that's the period of time that the federal government uses for measuring. I report based on the fiscal year of April 1st through March 31st, and there's actually a report due at the end of April, just a few days from now. So I was thinking it would be great if we knew how the remaining funds would be obligated prior to me filing the final report. If not, it's not the end of the world, but it'd be nice to put this one behind us. So the question tonight is, what do we do with the remaining $865?
I think the dog kennel was a really good one, since you have to have the match, and we already have the grant.
Right.
It's a great way to round that one out. Could the money be used for the project, the shipbuilders creek? Like
Another
the
possibility.
assessment fee? I remember the $20,000, I imagine that's not in the budget somewhere already, so that would be a good way to fund at least the evaluation of what the options are. I'm not sure that they'll be able to implement that fast. If they can implement it really fast, some of the money can be used for the remediation of it.
It's interesting, Jennifer, it's a great idea. We've struggled, interestingly enough, with this $4 million. It's like winning the lottery. All of a sudden, everybody is our cousin and our friend. And we also have suffered a little bit from recency bias, like things that we heard most recent, like, hey, should we use the money for that? It's happened a lot over the last couple of years. One of the reasons that Paul and I got together on this, I don't want to be redundant to him, is that he's got a report he's got to file by April 30th. I'll get to that in a second. I just want to say that, as you saw from this report he just gave, sewer has received a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it came up, I don't know, Jennifer, if you were on the board, I'm losing track of time, but we bought a new flush truck And we went back and forth as a board a couple months ago on, well, where's that money come from? Were you on the board at the time?
It's not.
It ended up a 3-2 vote that it came from the sewer reserve, and we didn't split the thing in the middle and say we'll take money from ARPA. And at least the board members who voted against the ARPA were like, I don't want to speak for them, but sewers received a lot of that $4 million. And we wanted to have some semblance of fair, not that life is fair, counselor, right? But it just seemed like we have other projects in town that this money could be used for. I know that Deputy Supervisor Cataldi at one time said, I don't know if it was here or whatever, that, but you certainly wouldn't want to take 800,000 projects and give each of them $1. Exaggeration to make a point. So what is a material amount of money to give to a project where it makes a difference? And we can debate that all day long. Is it $50,000 a project? Is it $200,000? So when Paul and I started talking about this, I said, Paul, here are the usual suspects, and it's on the second to last page. The dog kennel, the highway building, Sandbar Park, actually phase 2 and 3, the building at Sandbar Park, which is the bar restaurant, and the West Webster Hamlet, 600 Ridge, or the Hamlet, totally. And I would add also to this, I'm going to add a sixth one here, which is potentially those solar-powered speed monitoring things. So I'm going to put them down there. All right, solar powered. I'll write it on mine. So there you got 6 different projects. $860,000. It's about $140,000 a project if we're fair. But we really don't have to be fair tonight, because as Paul said, if this board says, hey, Paul, file the April 30th report and put in there these 6 projects that we are dovetailing toward December 31st, because you have to commit the money, you have to be in contract on the money by December 31st, 2024. I don't want to be redundant to Paul, but any one of these 6, there are things that will come up that may mean we're not going to be in contract by December 31st. So the money, you know, any dollar decision we make tonight is an estimate at best, because over the next 8 months, things will happen or not happen that will change this. And you might find that the dog kennel, once they reconstrue the thing, it doesn't need $140,000 in matching funds.
So we have 400,000 right now in the grant. 20% we have to come up with 80,000.
I gotta be honest with you, don't go with it, I think it's 10%. I'm in the skin in the game of the dog.
It's only 10%?
Yeah, but John, don't go down the rabbit hole, because I'm gonna tell you this right now. When I saw the estimate of the dog kennel, I just about passed out. And I said to you earlier, that's because Ags and Market wanted it a certain way with contingency, this and that. Now that we've got the money, let the engineers reconnoiter the thing and come back to us in a couple of weeks with what the cost is. And if the cost is $540, pulling that number out, hey, 400,000 grant, 140 from this money, we got a deal. Well, what if they come back and it's 440, which we only need to do 10% match on the kennel, that's 40,000. Well, we just moved 100 of the 140 that we kind of earmarked to the dog kennel, that could be spread to the highway building, or the Sandbar Park Phase 2, or the bar restaurant, or the Hamlet, and whatever. Over the next 8 months, I want to stress this. I said to Paul, it would be kind of nice to post our score on April 30th with, hey, these are the projects. You saw throughout this, we have flexibility. But what we don't have flexibility on, we need to have money in contract by December 31st, 2024. We don't have to make a decision tonight on what we're putting into contract. We got $864,000 left that is not earmarked and not in contract. Unequivocal, irrefutable, in 8 months, we better have that earmarked and under contract. So Paul is coming here tonight in advance of a couple days when he files that report. I don't want the board to overthink this. If the board says those 5 projects, or 6, whatever, seem to be, they're not recency bias, they're ones that we know are going on, whatever, why don't we earmark the money for that? I don't know if you have to put in that report, Paul, that each one is $140,000, which times 6 or whatever, adds up to 864.
I read a narrative, but I could read the narrative that the 864 includes these 5 things.
Or 6.
It'll give us some
Okay.
flexibility.
And then the board, and I want to stress this, over the next 8 months, and I don't want to be sitting here in between Christmas and New Year's and like, oh my God, our lack of preparation has become a crisis. We need to figure out how to contract and which money to use. That's not going to happen. Organically, the kennel, because we have to be in contract on that thing with ads and market within 3 months and break ground, I think the actual number will manifest itself to us. I'm going to tell you right now, the highway building, that's the plug. I know that's an accounting number, but basically, a highway building, unfortunately, is not one that gets grant money potential. So it'd be kind of nice that whatever we can't use from these other ones because either we can't get in contract by the end of '24, or the kennel doesn't take 140,000 and only needs 40,000, the plug should be the highway garage. Does everybody understand what I mean by that?
Yes.
I think that's the way to go.
I agree.
Sandbar Park Phase 2 and 3, I don't even know, really, to tell you the truth, if we're going to bring that to the board for design and those things in the next couple months. I kind of want to see how the bar restaurant goes. I think we're making progress on that. But there's 8 months left. The West Webster Hamlet, I got to tell you, we're knock on wood. We're queuing up the demolition of the garage by Memorial Day. What will we do next when we go and drill into that? And what's going to manifest itself? And what grants come back awarded for what we went for? These are the type of things that will give us information over the next 8 months that will guide us on how much of the money to use on each of these 6 things.
These are the right projects. I think these are the right list of projects for the reasons you outlined. Clearly, the highway is the plug because it's already under contract. You're not going to be scrambling at the end of the
No.
year. That's great. And then the Sandbar Park and the building and the hamlet, and maybe less so the dog kennel, but really has a huge impact on the community. Like that West Webster Hamlet is something that I think everybody in Webster talks about, whether you're on the east or west side of Webster, they care about that intersection. So, that being the case,
6 topics.
what's that?
I said, I think we're all in agreement regarding the projects.
I would agree. My question when we saw this, because we did all receive these suggestions much earlier, maybe last week, my concern goes back to, I didn't quite say $1 to all of them. But since, no, I know. But since we don't really know the cost, obviously we know the highway building. We're still a little uncertain of the dog kennel, but we don't know what we're looking at for the others. Again, I don't want to I would like to see this money be transformational to some a project or 2 or whatever it takes. So if we're looking at a huge amount for these and we're going to throw 140 at it, to me that's not making a big impact on that project. So I'm very much in agreement that the 6 we're looking at is a good place to start. And as we start to get these prices and these costs coming in, we'll be able to make a better decision on that.
Patty, I agree with everything you said, but as my daughters like to call me, the buzzkill.
You do that.
Even if we put it all toward the highway garage, it's not transformation for that.
Well, no, that wasn't my suggestion,
Yeah.
but yes.
As a plug, at least it helps pay for that and minimizes what we have to go into debt on.
Right.
I mean, it might end up that these 5 projects or 4 over the next 8 months end up having each 230,000, 220 toward them, and the highway gets nothing. But it's just so hard to tell.
No, I agree.
You know, and we'll, I guess, along the way, kind of have interesting discussions on what defines, did you use the word transformation? No, you used. Yeah. It's a tough one. Because you could say, that why are we using this for the dog kennel when, if the dog kennel, don't quote me on this, costs $500,000, we already got $400,000 of grants.
No, but then we're done with it. So to
That's
me,
true.
that's, yeah,
But no taxpayer money,
exactly.
no bonding, whatever. It'll be, there'll be some interesting discussions over the next 8 months.
But I think this list is a good place for Paul to start and report, and we'll continue to work on it.
You got your marching orders, Paul?
I think I understand.
I think you do.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
All right?
Thank you, Paul, for
Let
keeping
it rip.
this